My wife left me fake divorce papers and a positive pregnancy test as an April Fool's prank. I left for real. Hi, I'm Theodore, 34, and the morning my marriage died started with the smell of fresh coffee and an envelope that felt heavier than a brick. April 1st. I woke up alone. My wife, Marissa, had already left for work. Nothing unusual there. We'd been married 4 years, together 7, settled into predictable routines. I walked into the kitchen expecting the usual. My mug, her sarcastic, "Don't forget your lunch" note, maybe the dog staring at me like rent was due. Instead, I saw my name printed on a thick white envelope sitting beside the coffee maker. Theodore James Murphy. Official seal. Clerk stamps. Case numbers. The kind of formatting that screams someone wants half your stuff. My first stupid thought was, why would someone mail divorce papers to my own house? Then I opened it. And the bottom dropped out of my spine. A divorce petition. Filed March 29th. 3 days earlier. Her signature. Her handwriting. Irreconcilable differences. Asset breakdown. Our marriage date. Our address. It all looked sickeningly real. My knees actually gave out. I sat hard in a kitchen chair, gripping the papers so tightly they crinkled. Then I saw it. A positive pregnancy test on the counter. Not the faint line maybe kind of positive. No. One of those digital ones. Clear as a billboard. Pregnant 3+ weeks. My stomach twisted. She and I had been trying for a year. Tracking cycles. Scheduling intimacy like it was a doctor's appointment. Every negative test hit her like a sucker punch. We'd argued about fertility treatments 2 weeks earlier. So why would she be filing for divorce now? And if she was pregnant, whose was it? I called her. Voicemail. Texted her. Nothing. Called her job. They said she'd called in sick. So she wasn't at work. She was just avoiding me. That made it real in a way the papers hadn't. You don't avoid someone if it's a misunderstanding. You avoid them if you're guilty. I spent the whole day in a haze, packing a go bag, pacing, rereading the petition, Googling attorneys, trying to breathe through the tightness in my chest that just kept getting worse. At 6 p.m., the front door opened. She walked in like she didn't have a nuclear bomb waiting for her in the kitchen. I was sitting at the table with the papers in front of me. "Hey, babe," she said. "How was your... Whose is it?" She blinked. "What?" "The pregnancy test. Whose baby is it?" She frowned, confused, until her eyes landed on the test. Then on the papers. And then, God help me, she burst out laughing. Full body, tear-streaming laughter. "Oh my God! Your face! You should see your face!" I didn't move. Didn't blink. "It's April Fool's," she gasped, still laughing. "I got you so good." She thought it was funny. She thought that was funny. And that was the moment something inside me simply shut off, like a breaker flipping in a silent house. Because she didn't prank me. She showed me who she really was. I stood, walked past her, and pulled a suitcase from the closet. That's when she finally stopped laughing. But by then, it was already too late. "Theo, come on, it was a prank. People do dumb stuff on April Fools all the time. You're seriously packing a suitcase over a joke?" I didn't answer. I was already filling the bag. Essentials first: clothes, laptop, chargers, deodorant, razor. My mind was locked in that cold, clear place I only knew from emergencies. When a thing breaks and it's too far gone to fix, and all that's left is moving. "You can't be serious," she said, voice rising. "This is ridiculous. You really think I'd divorce you and have someone else's baby and just, what? Leave a note about it?" I zipped the suitcase. "You did leave a note about it," I said calmly. "An entire set of divorce papers. Fake ones. I pulled them offline. I didn't file anything. You faked legal documents and lied about being pregnant. I'm not pregnant." "I know." That hit her. Harder than I expected. She blinked like I'd slapped her. It was supposed to be funny. She mumbled, "You've been so tense lately." I thought that this would help. She hesitated. "It's April Fool's. I wanted to shock you, not, God, I didn't mean to hurt you. But that was the plan." I said. "Shock me. Upset me. You avoided me all day to make it believable. You knew it would mess me up. That's what makes it a good prank." "No," I said, standing still now. "That's what makes it cruel. She grabbed my wrist, desperation finally sinking into her voice. Theo, please. Don't do this. It was a mistake. I went too far, okay? I'm sorry. But you're blowing this way out of proportion. That word, proportion, broke something. You made me think my marriage was over and that you were carrying another man's child, I said. And then you laughed. Like my pain was the punchline. I pulled my arm free, walked to the front door. She followed me again. Where are you going to go? A hotel? You're seriously leaving me over this? I'm leaving you because of this. You can't just leave over a joke. You're right, I said, stepping outside. This wasn't a joke. It was a choice. And now I'm making mine. I drove to a hotel near my office. Checked in. Took a long shower I don't remember standing through. Turned my phone off. Didn't turn it back on until 2 hours later. 38 missed calls. 64 texts. The first few were apologies. Then confusion. Then outrage. Babe, please come home. I'm sorry. It was just a joke. You're seriously going to be mad about this? My sister thinks you're overreacting. Bo, you're being dramatic. You need to grow up. I blocked her number. Blocked her everywhere. Next morning, I made one call, to a divorce attorney. This time, the forms would be real. The attorney's office smelled like old coffee and expensive consequences. Her name was Sandra Velez. Sharp. Mid-40s. No nonsense. She wore a navy suit like she'd been born in it, and had a voice like she talked 1,000 people out of making stupid, sentimental mistakes. I'm guessing this isn't an April Fool's follow-up? She asked, glancing at the documents I'd slid across her desk. No, I said. These were part of the prank. She flipped through the pages. Raised an eyebrow. Your wife drafted fake divorce papers. With real forms. And a fake pregnancy test, suggesting infidelity. Yep. And she left it for you to find. Without context. April Fools, I said bitterly. Sandra closed the folder and leaned back. Do you want counseling? Mediation? Separation? Divorce? She nodded once. Good answer. By 3 p.m., we'd filed with the county clerk. By 5 p.m., Marissa was legally being served. That evening, she showed up at my office. Reception called me first. There's a woman here. Says she's your wife. She's crying. Tell her I'm not available. 10 minutes later, security escorted her out. She shouted that I was ruining everything. Screamed that I was overreacting. My receptionist told me later. She called you a psycho who can't take a joke. By the next day, her mom called. You need to come to your senses, Theodore. She said. Marissa is devastated. She made a mistake. She lied, humiliated me, and emotionally detonated my life for laughs. It was just a joke. You're being petty. Did she tell you she faked being pregnant? Silence. Yeah. Didn't think so. Click. Blocked. Then her best friend called. Different number. Different tactic. You're being a massive jerk. You don't throw away a marriage over one bad decision. She planned this over weeks. Got her sister's pregnancy test. Printed legal documents. Dodged me all day. That's not a mistake. That's a calculated campaign. You're seriously divorcing her over a prank? No. I'm divorcing her because my pain made her laugh. Blocked. That night, my brother called. She'd found his number somehow. Dude, he said. What the hell happened? I told him. Long silence. Yeah, he said eventually. Okay. That's messed up. You think I'm overreacting? No. I think you're the first guy I know with the balls to walk away from crazy that early. Calls kept coming. New numbers. New email addresses. Some messages started with apologies. Most ended with guilt trips. Then she started emailing my job. HR got involved. Theodore, do we need to intervene? No. It's a personal matter. I'm handling it legally. We trust you. But if she shows up again, we'll act. She showed up again. Day 6. Security escorted her out a second time. She screamed that she was my wife, that I was ruining everything over nothing. My attorney sent a cease and desist. Any further contact outside legal channels would trigger a restraining order. And just like that, the noise stopped. That silence? It wasn't peace. It was the sound of war turning into litigation. 2 weeks after I left, we had our first preliminary hearing. Sandra warned me beforehand. Don't expect remorse. Expect strategy. She was right. Marissa walked in wearing a pastel cardigan and that frozen, sad expression people put on like a costume when they're trying to look sympathetic in front of a judge. Her attorney was fresh out of law school. Young, nervous energy, cheap suit. The kind of guy who probably still thought rom-coms were good legal research. He led with, Your Honor, this is a case of misunderstanding. My client made a poor choice, but it was never malicious. Sandra didn't even flinch. We have documented proof she spent weeks planning this. Text coordinating with her sister to use a real pregnancy test. Messages to friends saying, and I quote, he's going to freak out. I can't wait to see his face. This was not a moment of poor judgment. This was a campaign of psychological manipulation. I looked at Marissa across the courtroom. She couldn't meet my eyes. The judge asked her directly, Did you expect your husband to be upset? She blinked. Yes, but only at first. I thought he'd laugh about it later. Did he laugh? No. So what did you do? I apologized. Before or after he left? After. The judge made a note and looked up. Petition for divorce will proceed. I'm ordering mediation for asset division. Both parties are required to attend in good faith. Her attorney tried to object. Your Honor, my client believes this marriage can still be saved. Does your client want counseling? Marissa nodded quickly. Yes, please. I'll do anything. I love him. The judge turned to Sandra. Does the petitioner want counseling? Sandra stood. No, Your Honor. My client is unwilling to participate in reconciliation efforts due to a fundamental incompatibility of values. Specifically, his wife finds emotional trauma humorous. He does not. Judge nodded again. Understood. Outside the courtroom, she tried to approach me. Her lawyer reached out to stop her. Sandra stepped between us like a wall in heels. Don't, she said flatly. Cease and desist is still active. I just want to talk to him. Marissa said, tears back again. Then you'll do it through your attorney, Sandra replied. We walked to the parking garage without another word. In the car, Sandra turned to me, all business. She's going to drag this out. Count on that. Her lawyer's green and desperate for experience. They'll push for every dollar they can, even if it's absurd. She's working part-time at a boutique. I make 6 figures. Exactly. Get ready for a spousal support demand. I groaned. We've only been married 4 years. Doesn't matter. Judges don't always care about length. They care about lifestyle change. We'll fight it. But be ready. Spoiler, we fought it. Spoiler 2, we didn't win everything. Mediation was supposed to be civil. Neutral ground. Just 2 people splitting assets like adults. Instead, it felt like walking into a rigged game show hosted by someone who just discovered they might be poor. She wanted the house. Not a house, my house. The one I bought 3 years before we got married. My name on the deed. My down payment. My mortgage. She claimed she'd contributed to the home's value. Sandra asked. In what way? Marissa brightened. I picked the counters for the kitchen remodel. Painted 3 rooms. Re-landscaped the front yard. Total cost of her improvements? $8,000. Total equity in the home? $75,000. Her attorney said. We're requesting 50% of the equity. I nearly choked. 50%? For choosing countertops and planting azaleas? She managed the home, he said, like she'd been running a Hilton. She supported the marriage, maintained the household, enabled his career advancement. Sandra raised an eyebrow. She worked part-time at a boutique by choice. My client never asked her to quit her full-time job. Still, the lawyer said, her unpaid labor contributed significantly to the lifestyle enjoyed by both parties. Sandra folded her hands. We'll offer $15,000 for her contributions to home improvement. That's nearly double what she actually spent. Generous, considering she tried to rent the house to strangers while faking a pregnancy. Her attorney didn't blink. We want $60,000. For emotional contribution to the marriage. Marissa added, like she was expecting applause. Sandra actually laughed. You're requesting compensation for being married? We didn't settle. Shocker. Trial was scheduled. Meanwhile, her family launched a full-on smear campaign. They called everyone they could find, my parents, my siblings, my cousins, even my aunt who doesn't own a cell phone and thinks the moon landing was faked. She's devastated, they said. He abandoned her over a harmless joke. He's cold. He's cruel. My mom finally called. They're saying awful things, honey. That you're just gone. She didn't tell you about the fake divorce papers and pregnancy test? Silence. Didn't think so. Well, she said finally. That changes everything. Friends called too. Apparently Marissa's best friend had been spreading her version of the breakup like it was a Netflix documentary. She's telling people you ghosted her after a fight, one friend said. I told him the truth. He paused. Yeah. That's divorce-worthy. Another friend texted me. My wife said if I ever pulled a stunt like that, she'd burn my stuff. You showed restraint. The validation helped. Because, yeah, some nights I did question myself. Wondered if I'd been too harsh. Too fast. But then I'd remember that envelope. That test. Her laughing while I crumbled. No, I wasn't overreacting. I was responding like someone who finally realized he'd been married to a stranger. The final trial happened 8 weeks after I filed. Sandra showed up with 3 folders, a coffee the color of motor oil, and the calm confidence of a woman who'd buried worse than this by breakfast. Opposing counsel looked less calm. His suit was rumpled. His notes were in a paper folder with a Pikachu sticker on it, no joke. He opened by saying, My client regrets her actions deeply and believes in the sanctity of marriage. Sandra opened our case by handing the judge a packet thicker than a novel. Your Honor, Exhibit A, screenshots of text messages between the respondent and her sister, in which she explicitly outlines her plan to fake a pregnancy using her sister's test. Exhibit B, draft versions of divorce documents with timestamps spanning 3 weeks, indicating premeditation. Exhibit C, social media messages sent after the prank, mocking the petitioner's reaction. Exhibit D, medical documentation from a licensed therapist showing acute stress response, loss of appetite, and sleep disruption following the incident. The judge glanced up. Is this true, Mrs. Murphy? Marissa's voice was small. It was a prank. The judge didn't blink. Did you expect him to be upset? Yes. That was the point. And you let him believe it for how long? All day. I thought he'd laugh later. When he didn't laugh, what did you do? I apologized. After he packed a suitcase and left. Yes. The judge leaned back. So you let him believe his marriage was over and that you were carrying another man's child. For entertainment? Marissa looked at her attorney, who stared down at the table like it might open up and swallow him. When you say it like that, she started. How else should I say it? The judge asked flatly. Silence. After a long pause, the judge said, Divorce is granted. Asset division as follows. He didn't give her the house. Didn't give her spousal support. He gave her $20,000 for home improvements and a general equity contribution. That was it. Each party paid their own legal fees. When the judge banged the gavel, Marissa burst into tears. Her attorney whispered, We'd like to appeal. The judge didn't look up. On what grounds? That your client emotionally tormented her husband and didn't get a payout? Motion denied. Sandra and I walked out into the bright sun of late June, and for the first time in 2 months, I felt like I could breathe with both lungs. She's going to try one more time, Sandra said. Watch. She was right. We hadn't even reached the car before Marissa tried to approach me in the parking lot. I just want to talk. Sandra stepped between us like a human firewall. You've had every chance. We're done. Marissa started crying again. But not in the real way. In the performance way. The same way she laughed that day, too loud, too fake, too rehearsed. We got in the car and drove off. She's going to tell everyone you ruined her life, Sandra said. Let her, I replied. The people who matter know better. I meant it. But part of me still waited for the next ambush. Because if there's one thing about people who think pain is funny, they don't take rejection quietly. The final decree arrived 4 weeks later. Official. Signed. Stamped. Legal. I was divorced. And I felt nothing. Not at first. No rush of freedom. No sadness. Just a blankness. The kind you feel after a really intense surgery, when you wake up groggy, vaguely human, and wondering where the rest of you went. Then came the relief. Then the quiet. And finally, I slept through the night without waking up in a cold sweat, reaching for someone who'd proven she didn't deserve to be there. I sold the house 2 months later. Too many ghosts. Too many flashbacks to that morning, that envelope, that laugh. I bought a condo closer to work. Smaller, cleaner, easier. Nothing shared. No walls with memories etched into them. Just mine. Marissa tried to friend me on social media a few weeks after the divorce finalized. Blocked. Her best friend messaged me on a platform I forgot to lock down. She misses you? She learned her lesson. Blocked. Then her mother mailed a letter to my office. Actual envelope. Handwritten. My HR rep gave it to me in a biohazard bag like it was radioactive. I shredded it without opening it. They stopped eventually. Or maybe they just ran out of ways to reach me. 6 months later, I met someone new. Her name's Casey. We met at a conference. She's in UX design, quick with a joke, slow to judge, and allergic to drama. I told her the whole story on our third date. Figured better early than halfway through moving in. When I finished, she stared at me and said, "That's insane. Who does that to someone they supposedly love?" That's what I said. "You didn't overreact," she added. "You underreacted." I would have burned her wardrobe. I laughed harder than I had in months. We've been dating 4 months now. It's good. Easy. No mind games. No walking on eggshells waiting for the next surprise twist. No April Fools in August. Just mutual respect. Grown-up conversations. Boundaries that aren't booby-trapped. Through a few mutual friends, because gossip moves like wildfire, I learned Marissa still blames me for everything. Tells people I was dramatic. Says I threw away a marriage over a prank. Says I couldn't take a joke. Let her rewrite the story however she needs to sleep at night. Because I sleep just fine. And I'm not the one who turned love into a weapon. Theodore Murphy, age 34, divorced. It still sounded surreal when I said it out loud, like a label that didn't quite fit yet, but I was learning to wear it without flinching. I stayed in therapy. Still do. We worked through the usual suspects: trust issues, self-doubt, the sharp edge of betrayal disguised as humor. My therapist asked me once, "Do you think you'll ever forgive her? For the prank?" I asked. "No. For being the kind of person who thought that prank was funny." I sat with that for a while. "Maybe," I said finally. "Eventually. But not because she deserves it. Because I do. Some things you don't forgive to heal the other person. You forgive to stop letting the memory live rent-free in your head." That was the goal: evict the ghost, reclaim the space. Casey helped. She didn't fix me. That's not her job. But she showed me what it felt like to be respected by default. No games. No emotional scavenger hunts. If something was bothering her, she said it. If something bothered me, she listened. Wild concept, right? One night over dinner, I told her something I hadn't said out loud before. "Sometimes I wonder if I ever really knew Marissa at all." She looked up from her pasta. "I think you knew the version she let you see. The version that smiled during holidays and said all the right things." "Yeah," I said. Then one day she drops a bomb and says, "Surprise, it's a joke." "That's not a joke," Casey said. "That's cruelty with a punchline." Exactly. I thought back to that April morning. The cold counter. The coffee. The envelope. The moment my reality cracked like glass. That wasn't the beginning of the end. That was the end. The rest was just cleanup. And now? I'm good. Not perfect. But good. The condo feels like home. My job's steady. I've got friends who stuck by me. A girlfriend who actually sees me. And a future that doesn't feel like it's on someone else's leash. One of those mutual friends, the ones who still talk to Marissa, texted me recently. She says she still doesn't get why you left. Still thinks you took it too far. I didn't reply. Because honestly, if someone can't see the difference between love and manipulation, there's nothing you can say that'll make them see it. I didn't leave because of a prank. I left because she showed me who she really was, and I believed her. A few weeks ago, I bumped into her. Marissa. Of all places, Target. I was standing in the checkout line with a basket of mundane adulthood, razors, almond milk, and replacement light bulbs. She turned the corner from the seasonal aisle holding a box of Christmas ornaments, saw me, and froze. We locked eyes. And in that split second, I could tell she hadn't expected to see me happy. Solid. unshaken. She was wearing gym clothes, no makeup, ponytail, casual, harmless. But her face flickered. Like seeing me broke whatever story she'd been telling herself. She walked over. I braced for a scene. Instead, she smiled that old smile, the one I used to fall for when I was tired and lonely and wanted to believe things were fine. "You look good," she said. "Thanks," I replied, cool and neutral. "How are things?" "Good." She nodded slowly, like that answer surprised her. Then she tilted her head. "You know, I really didn't mean for any of it to go that far. That's the problem," I said. She blinked. "What do you mean?" "You didn't think at all." That hit her harder than yelling ever could. Because it was true. Her whole prank had been built on the assumption that I'd bend, not break. That I'd flinch, not flee. "You really still think it was just a joke, don't you?" She shifted uncomfortably. "Well, I mean, people pull pranks all the time. It's April Fool's. People don't fake a pregnancy with someone else's test and draft divorce papers as a comedy sketch." Her voice dropped. "I've apologized so many times." "No," I said. "You've explained. But not once did you actually own it." "Not really." She looked down at the ornaments in her cart. "I miss you, Theo." I nodded. "I'm sure you do. But you don't miss me. You miss the version of me who let you get away with it." That's when her face changed. She knew it was over. Knew I wasn't coming back. That whatever narrative she'd been crafting, of the poor wife who lost her uptight husband over a harmless joke, just got rewritten in aisle 5. I left before she could say more. Didn't look back. Didn't feel triumphant. Didn't feel bitter. Just free. Because that was the difference now. I didn't owe her understanding. Or kindness. Or closure. I owed myself peace. And I was finally collecting. About a month after the Target run-in, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. No subject line. The message? "Do you ever think we could have fixed it if you hadn't left?" I stared at it for a while. Did I ever think that? Sure. For about 15 minutes. In a hotel room. Right before I blocked her number. But fixing it would have meant staying with someone who thought breaking me was entertainment. Who thought making me feel abandoned, betrayed, and humiliated was hilarious. Who couldn't even apologize without trying to reframe it as my fault for not getting it. I didn't respond. There's nothing to fix when the foundation was poured in quicksand. But the message stuck with me for days. Not because of her, but because of what it reminded me. How close I came to staying. How easily I might have ignored that voice in my gut that said, "Leave now, or lose more than just your trust." I could have done what so many people do, rationalize it. It was just one mistake. She didn't mean it. She was just trying to be funny. I could have played the long game of gaslighting myself into thinking I was overreacting. Instead, I left. I left on time. And that, more than anything, is what I'm proud of. These days, I don't measure healing by how much I've moved on from her. I measure it by how much I've moved back into myself. How I no longer flinch when someone texts, "Hey, can we talk?" How I don't spiral when my phone rings at an odd hour. How I don't check someone's tone 3 times before believing what they said. Casey notices it too. One night she said, "You trust me more than you used to." "I do," I said. She smiled. "That means you're healing. It means I'm safe." That's the difference. It's not about forgetting what happened. It's about building a life where no one would even think that kind of prank would fly. Where love isn't a gamble, it's a guarantee. Where the person beside you never chooses your panic for their punchline. I still don't celebrate April Fool's Day. I probably never will. But I do celebrate April 4th. The day I filed. The day I started over. The day I stopped asking if it was too much to expect respect, and decided it was too little to settle for less. This year, on April 4th, I woke up to the smell of pancakes. Casey was in the kitchen, barefoot, humming off-key, flipping a short stack like she'd been doing it her whole life. The sun was bleeding through the curtains just right, soft and gold and warm enough to make you believe in fresh starts. "Happy Divorce Day," she said, grinning. "You remembered?" "Of course." "You celebrate healing. I'm just here for the carbs." We ate in bed. No distractions. No tension. Just 2 adults with messy hair and real laughter. She handed me a card, handwritten messy, the kind that makes you smile before you even open it. Inside it said, "For the man who chose himself, and chose better. Here's to knowing what isn't funny. And loving like it matters. I don't cry easily. Not after what I've been through. But that cracked something open. Later that day, we walked past the street magician doing pranks, rubber snakes, fake spill gags, all that stuff. Casey tugged my arm. You okay? Yeah, I said. It's harmless. You sure? I looked at the crowd laughing, no pain, no confusion. Just fun. Yeah. Because they all know it's a joke. And because no one's handing their partner divorce papers with a baby bomb attached. She winced. Okay, fair. Back home, I opened a drawer in my desk. One I rarely touch. Inside, the original envelope. The fake divorce papers. The pregnancy test, still sealed in a plastic bag. Not because I'm sentimental, but because sometimes it's good to remember exactly what you survived. I used to look at those things and feel rage. Now I feel distance. Like looking at artifacts in a museum of someone else's life. I left them there. Closed the drawer. Went outside. Casey was sitting on the porch with her feet tucked under her, coffee in hand, face tilted toward the sun. She looked over and said, You look lighter. Feel it, I said, sitting beside her. You think she ever tells the truth about what happened? I thought about it. About Marissa at Target. About the email. About her stories to friends, her deflections, her tears that came too easily and dried even faster. No, I said. But the truth doesn't need her permission to exist. We sat in silence for a while. And I realized something. I didn't need justice. I didn't need revenge. I didn't even need an apology. I just needed out. And I got out. That was enough. That was everything. Last week, I got an invitation. It was a wedding. Marissa's. She's getting remarried. I almost laughed when I opened the envelope. Plain white, cream cardstock, navy script like something off Pinterest. No return address, but the RSVP card was linked to her maiden name. I stared at it for a long time. Not because it hurt. It didn't. Not even a twinge. I stared because I couldn't decide if it was bold, or just tone deaf. Included was a note. No hard feelings. I'd love for us to part as friends. Hope you're well. Friends. Right. Friends don't emotionally carpet bomb each other for content. Friends don't weaponize trust. Friends don't turn your panic into party confetti. Casey was the one who found me staring at it. What's that? I handed it to her. She read it, blinked, then muttered, The audacity. I nodded. You think it's some kind of closure thing? Casey shrugged. Or she thinks you're still stuck, and this is her way of showing she's moved on. She doesn't know how far gone I already was. Or how far you've come. I didn't RSVP. Didn't burn it. Didn't frame it. Just dropped it in the trash like junk mail from another life. But later that night, I thought about the guy she was marrying. I hoped he knew. Not just the highlight reel. Not just the flirty stories and the quirky smiles. I hoped he knew the version of her that thought betrayal was hilarious. And if he didn't, I hoped he had the sense to run when the first red flag showed up in a gift-wrapped envelope. But mostly, I hoped he never needed to become me to learn what love isn't. Because that's the worst kind of education, one where your heart is the tuition. I looked at Casey curled up on the couch, face lit by the soft blue of the TV, a mug of tea in her hand, blanket wrapped like armor. And I felt it again. The thing I hadn't felt in years. Safety. No more guessing. No more pretending. No more waiting for the joke that turns into a scar. I didn't escape a bad marriage. I graduated from it. And I was finally living like someone who knew what he was worth. 3 days after that wedding invite hit the trash, I got a phone call from an unknown number. Normally I don't answer those. Not since the divorce. But something in me, curiosity, maybe, hit accept. Hello? Silence. Then a voice I hadn't heard in nearly a year. Theo? It was her sister. Lacey. The one who donated the infamous pregnancy test for the prank. The silent accomplice. The one who'd let her positive test be used as emotional shrapnel without saying a word. I didn't speak. Let the silence press on her. I wasn't sure this number still worked, she said. I got it from your mom. I hope that's okay. Still, I waited. I wanted to say. Her voice wavered. I never apologized. For my part in what happened. I exhaled slowly. You let her use your pregnancy test to fake an affair and a baby. You didn't think I deserved a heads up? I did, she said quickly. I swear I did. I told her it was a bad idea. But she said it was harmless. That it would be funny. She made it sound like you'd just laugh and post about it online. And when I didn't? She panicked. Said you were being cold? I believed her at first. I shouldn't have. And now? Now I'm 8 months postpartum, exhausted, and the thought of someone weaponizing that kind of news makes my stomach turn. There was a pause. She told me you'd laugh about it eventually. Lacey said softer. But you didn't. And you were right not to. I didn't need a prank. I said. I needed a partner. I know. Another silence. This one settled heavier. She invited me to the wedding. Lacey added, like it was a confession. But I'm not going. Why not? Because she's telling everyone the story again. Only this time, you left her without warning. She edited the whole thing. No prank. No test. Just abandonment. That landed like a punch I didn't see coming, even though I should have. She still doesn't think she did anything wrong. Lacey said. She's rewriting it so she doesn't have to. Sounds about right. She'll probably always tell it that way. Lacey said. But I won't. Not if anyone asks. I'm sorry, Theo. Really. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was something. A small moment of someone finally saying, you weren't crazy. You weren't cruel. You were hurt. And you had every right to leave. We said goodbye. I hung up. And for the first time since all of it began, I felt like someone from that side of the story finally stepped into the light. Not to excuse it, but to admit it happened. Casey found me out on the balcony that night. Just sitting in the dark. You okay? She asked. I nodded. Someone just told the truth. She smiled. Took long enough. Yeah, I said. But it still helps. Because sometimes, the healing isn't in being proven right. It's in being believed. 2 weeks later, I found the old voicemail. I hadn't meant to. I was clearing space off my phone, deleting ancient audio messages, reminders, half-finished voice memos I didn't even remember recording. And then I heard it. April 1st. Timestamp, 11:42 a.m. From her. I hadn't listened to it that day. Couldn't. I'd seen her name and immediately tossed my phone face down like it was going to explode. Now, almost a year later, I pressed play. Hey, babe. Just checking if you saw it yet. God, I wish I could see your face. I'm dying over here. I promise you'll laugh. It's good, right? You always say I can't pull one over on you, but guess what? I got you this time. Happy April Fools! I love you. See you tonight. Don't be mad. I sat there listening to it over and over. There it was. A time capsule of who she really was. Not the crying, pleading woman from the courthouse. Not the wistful face in Target. This was the real version. The one who knew exactly what she was doing, and reveled in it. Her voice was giddy, almost triumphant, like she'd won something. That message? That wasn't a woman worried about hurting me. That was a woman enjoying the setup before the fall. And I finally understood something. She didn't just miscalculate. She didn't just go too far. She enjoyed going too far. That was the thrill. The more emotional chaos she created, the better the punchline. I hit delete. Not to forget. But to take away the last little piece of power she had. She'd built that moment like a stage show. Now the lights were off. The audience had left. And I wasn't clapping. I looked around my apartment. The plants on the windowsill Casey kept alive with terrifying enthusiasm. The shelves with books I actually read. The framed photo of us at a cabin last fall. No filters, no scripts, no secret agendas. Just real. Just safe. You don't realize how hard you were bracing for impact until you live a life where you can finally put your arms down. That's what I have now. No games. No setups. No fake-outs. Just a quiet kind of freedom that laughs with me, not at me. And I'd take that over 1,000 second chances. Every time. Casey and I were at a small dinner party the other night, her friends mostly. The kind of night with homemade pasta, mismatched wine glasses, someone's dog begging under the table, and conversations that float between funny and too real. Halfway through the evening, someone brought up pranks. Okay, what's the worst prank anyone's ever pulled on you? A guy named Mitch asked, grinning. People shared stories, rubber snakes, air horns under office chairs, fake parking tickets. Then someone turned to me. Theo? You look like you've got one. Casey glanced over. She knew. I smiled. Yeah. But mine doesn't end with a laugh. There was a pause. That polite kind of silence that opens the door if you want to walk through it. So I did. I told them the short version. Fake divorce papers. A pregnancy test that wasn't hers. Her sister's, actually. Set up over weeks. No reveal until I was broken. The whole room went quiet. Nobody laughed. Nobody said I overreacted. Mitch muttered, Jesus Christ. The woman next to him said, That's not a prank. That's psychological warfare. I nodded. That's what I said. Another friend leaned in. So, what happened next? I left. Filed for divorce 3 days later. Someone actually whispered, Good. Another added, That must have been hell. It was, I said honestly. But leaving was less painful than staying. That hit. You could feel it. Because everyone knows someone who stayed too long. Or someone who tried to laugh through the pain, hoping love would come back in the punchline. Later, while we were helping clean up, one of the women came up to me quietly. My ex used to do stuff like that, she said. Never that extreme, but always pushing too far. Always saying I was too sensitive if I didn't laugh. I'm sorry, I said. She nodded. You made me feel less crazy. Thanks for sharing. I walked out of that house realizing something. Telling the truth? It wasn't just closure for me anymore. It was a lifeline for people still in the middle of it. Because the worst kind of pain is the kind that makes you feel alone in the punchline. And if my story helps someone walk away from that, then yeah, I'll keep telling it. Until no one calls that kind of cruelty a joke ever again. Marissa's wedding photos finally made the rounds online. Someone tagged me. Not maliciously, just one of those mutuals who hadn't updated their mental software since the divorce. I clicked. Big white dress. Garden ceremony. Him in a tan suit and nervous smile. Her in front of everyone, radiating curated joy. The caption? We laughed through everything. Now we laugh forever. I closed the tab. There it was again, laughing. Always the punchline. Always the spin. She wasn't celebrating love. She was rewriting history with good lighting. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger. Or even sadness. Just distance. That version of me, the one who stayed, who doubted himself, who mistook silence for strength, is gone. Now, I have peace. I have a partner who sees me. And I've got the freedom that comes from not needing to prove I was right, just living like I already know I was. Let her laugh. I've got better things to do. This morning, Casey handed me a mug that said, Not today, gaslighter. I laughed harder than the coffee deserved. We were standing in our tiny kitchen, barefoot, sleepy, real. No scripts. No surprises. She looked at me and said, You're not afraid anymore. And she was right. I used to wake up flinching, waiting for the punchline. Now I wake up safe. Not because life's perfect, but because I finally chose peace over pretending. Marissa will always tell her version. The prank gone too far. The husband who overreacted. Let her. I don't need to argue the truth. I live it. Every quiet morning. Every honest laugh. Every time I choose myself and don't apologize for it. That April Fool's morning was the end of my marriage. But it was the beginning of something better. Not revenge. Not redemption. Just reality, rebuilt the right way. And this time? No one's laughing at my pain. They're standing beside me in the light. Where I always belong.